Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Charity Wallace, founder, Wallace Global Impact; Cherie Blair, founder, the Cherie Blair Foundation; Kerry Moreland, VP, Established Areas Exploration and New Ventures, ExxonMobil; and Nneka Okekearu, Deputy Director, Enterprise Development Center of Pan Atlantic University.
Good afternoon. Thank you to Concordia for hosting us today. I'm so thrilled to be a part of the 11th Annual Concordia Summit. And I also want to thank ExxonMobil for inviting me to moderate today's discussion on creating inclusive and accessible tools for women entrepreneurs. I'm really honored to be joined today by this very distinguished panel. As you heard, we have Cherie Blair, Kerry Moreland, and Nneka Okekearu, who are going to join me today to talk about this very important topic of women's economic opportunity and empowerment. And as we think about the topic of women's economic empowerment, creating effective tools for women entrepreneurs, I contend that arguably the biggest missed market opportunity is that of women. Research shows that when women participate more equally in the economy, the global GDP could increase by 26% or $28 trillion by 2025. Yet women still face persistent barriers. Despite recognition of the opportunity that women represent, on virtually every global measure, women are more economically excluded than men. So today, I'm pleased to talk to these amazing women who are tackling this issue through their work and their commitment and leadership. And I'm eager to have the discussion about the challenges, but really highlight these effective partnership and the solutions that have been deployed and developed for women globally. So Mrs. Blair, let's start with you. Why don't you describe to us the specific barriers that women entrepreneurs face and how the Road to Growth program is addressing those barriers?
I'm delighted to Charity and delighted to be on this great panel. As you say, across the world, women face economic, social, and legal barriers to set up and run their own businesses. And these range from women not being educated to the same level, or in some countries, and we see it in Afghanistan at the moment, don't we? Not at all. To social and pressures on girls to get married early, to give up work when they get married. And as I've said, actually some legal barriers, which in some countries still forbid women to actually work without permission of their husband, and which also mean it's difficult for women to raise capital because they often don't own assets that banks recognize as sufficient collateral. But underlying all this, I think, is deeply entrenched sexism and gender stereotypes, which are often the root cause of these barriers, because these assumptions about what women can and cannot do. Of course, on top of that, and we call it the double burden. I mean, as a mother and grandmother, we don't think of our children and grandchildren as burdens, but nevertheless, women do have this double shift of, yes, they do their work, whether it's their own businesses or working in companies, but they also have the unpaid domestic labor and family care, whether that's doing it yourself or organizing it so others will help you do it. And this, of course, has been particularly highlighted, has it not, with COVID, when there's been huge pressure on women. And just today in my law firm, I was talking to a colleague in Romania whose 14-year-old daughter has been sent home from school because there's an outbreak in her class and it's back to homeschooling, you know, and that's always an issue. And you mentioned that this is a huge economic problem from the world, but it's also the fact is COVID seems to have impacted more on women's jobs. They're more at risk, 19% more at risk in the pandemic than men's. And the situation is getting worse. This year, the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap says it's actually gone backwards when it comes to women's economic equality with men. So we wanted to do something about it. And thanks to the great partnership we have here with Kerry and Nneka, we have a Road to Growth program, which we do in a number of countries, but particularly it started in Nigeria. And it's an intensive online and in-class training course, which allows women to learn about financial literacy, which allows women to come together in cohorts so they can support each other. We form them into groups where we find even after the course, they keep on with these WhatsApp groups. One of the women we work with called the groups sisterpreneurs, sister entrepreneurs. And it enables the women to enhance their business knowledge, get their investment ready, build their confidence and networks. And of course, blended learning, where partly it's online and partly it's offline, is much more flexible for women. And in the pandemic, we've done more to more about peer-to-peer learning, accessing more on the internet, and also helping women to learn a bit more about how to use the internet and how to manage a crisis. So we've got features on leadership and also helping women to be the change that they want to see in their own communities, in their industries, and of course in wider society. And they are such great women. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about some of them as we carry on talking.
That's right. Well, thank you, Cherie. It's really amazing to look at the progress and outcomes of the Road to Growth program. And as we talk about that, Kerry, we think about why ExxonMobil's involved. So tell us, why does a large energy company like ExxonMobil invest so heavily in women's economic empowerment?
Thank you so much, Charity. I would say also, it's just an absolute pleasure to be here today and just an honor to be among such accomplished women. To answer your question, I think it might be really helpful to describe our journey. In some ways, this discussion, it's certainly been many years in the making, I would say, by many people both here with us virtually today and across the globe. So since 2005, ExxonMobil and the ExxonMobil Foundation have supported women in more than 90 countries to fulfill their economic potential. And to date, we've invested more than $120 million to help both community-based and global partners implement programs directly benefiting tens of thousands of women. And women-owned businesses, they're also extremely important to our global supply chain. We spend approximately $500 million with them each year. So why do we do this? I mean, we fundamentally believe that women's entrepreneurship has the ability to drive positive economic growth and social change around the world. We're not alone in that view. The International Monetary Fund reports that women's full economic inclusion would propel massive growth in both advanced and developing economies. Charity, you mentioned this in the beginning, but it's estimated that between 12 trillion and 25 trillion could be added to the global GDP by 2025 simply by advancing women's economic equality. So women, they're truly an untapped economic resource in every country. So by increasing women's entrepreneurship, you widen the business base. And this is particularly important, I would say, in developing countries where formal employment remains scarce. And I want to share with you an interesting stat today. So according to the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization, if women had the same access to land, technology, education, and markets that men do, yield on women's farms could increase by 20 to 30%. I mean, that's amazing. That equates to feeding 100 to 150 million more people. Can you imagine the impact that would have? There's an African proverb that we like to subscribe to, and that is when women move forward, the world moves with them. And that's why ExxonMobil became a founding member of the Global Business Council for Women's Economic Empowerment. It's also why ExxonMobil works with the Cherie Blair Foundation for Women to support women entrepreneurs to develop their business skills and financial literacy through this hands-on training, networking, and technology. And I will tell you, investing in women, it's not just a nice thing to do from a corporate social responsibility standpoint. It's the right thing to do from a business perspective. As a global energy company, we know that we fundamentally succeed when nations and communities are prosperous. And ExxonMobil believes strongly that women are key drivers of that prosperity.
Thanks so much, Kerry. It's so true. I love the statistics that you provided, but it really highlights the need for these kinds of partnerships. ExxonMobil has stepped up. I remember 10 years ago when you launched that seminal report on growth through women's economic empowerment. And that was when you developed that partnership with the Cherie Blair Foundation for Women. And so it's really terrific to see the work that you've done over these last 10 years and beyond, and your commitment. So Nneka, I want to go to you. You've run now 4 iterations of the Road to Growth program in Nigeria. And so will you tell the audience a little bit about the impacts that you've seen on the women that have taken part of the program and are participating in the program? And then maybe describe a couple of the ripple effects that we talk about of supporting women entrepreneurs and the ripple effect that it has on their families, the communities, and the economy.
All right, thank you very much, Charity. So I think the best thing would just be share one of the ladies' story. So I want to talk about Toby. Toby came on the Road to Growth program in 2019. And Toby runs a textile design company in Lagos, very small boutique, something she was doing in her compound. And prior to coming on the Road to Growth program, Toby had never taken a loan. Toby was very scared talking to people about funds. Financially, she was financially illiterate, and she was running that business by herself with just her niece that lived with her. Toby came on the Road to Growth program in 2019. And coming to that program, the first thing she did that happened to Toby, the transformation, was her confidence. She couldn't talk about her business. She couldn't even share anything about her business. But since doing the program, as we speak today, Toby has over 15 staff working for her. She's been able to access a soft loan from a thrift society in her neighborhood. And she's gone ahead to train 15 other women on how to set up a textile design business. And those 15 other women have gone ahead to set up their own businesses, and they're doing so well. So when we talk about the ripple effect, there's stories like Toby's that we'd like to share. We don't want to call out the statistics and all, but one thing that happened for the immediate family was something very simple, change in the tuition. Toby couldn't afford to send her children to decent schools. They were always being sent back because they couldn't pay their school fees. But today, her children have been able to go to school for the last 2 years, nonstop. Nobody sends them home because they can't pay tuition. They're not sent back crying because they can't afford school books. They can't afford something as simple as a school bag. The revenue she's been able to generate, the sustainability model that she's come up with since coming on the Road to Growth program has made her build a sustainable business such that her 3 children are able to go to school year-round. And now she's even thinking about setting up a small fund for college. By the way, Toby didn't go to college, but she's very sure that her 3 children will not only finish high school, but go to college. And I think that's one of the stories that we want to share. So when we talk about the ripple effect and we're talking about the GDP, but something as simple as being assured that your children can go to school, you can afford to pay the tuition, you can afford to pay all the things that they need. I think that's so powerful. And we're so grateful for the platform that ExxonMobil Foundation and Cherie Blair Foundation are able to provide for the women in Nigeria.
That's incredible. What a great story. And it's a perfect way to really describe this ripple effect that takes place. And we know that women reinvest 90% of their income back into their families and communities, creating a more stable economy. So Cherie, I'm going to go back to you. What do you think are the most significant outcomes or best practices that's been discovered so far that have been really helpful in creating sustainable and inclusive growth for women-led businesses?
Well, I think first of all is that the approach that we've developed with ExxonMobil and the Enterprise Development Center is not about doing things for women. It's about empowering the women to do things for themselves, to make their own choices, to shape their own destiny. Now that sounds easy, but actually it's a very complicated matter which encompasses a range of issues, which goes from the literacy that we've been talking about into the wider education, legal rights, healthcare issues, domestic violence, whatever it is, but within the context of helping women to take control of their lives. I think that the second lesson I've learned, and it's one you've referred to yourself, is this long-term sustainable partnership that we have with ExxonMobil and that we've also developed with the Enterprise Development Center. Mm-hmm. Because we very much, the fact that ExxonMobil is with us for the long term gives us that security to be able to be innovative, to be able to plan and develop. And it's very important, you know, we feel that we don't just helicopter into countries, we don't just come into Nigeria, but actually to work with those in the country who know exactly what's going on to design and deliver programs which really are going to make impact locally. And that's why the Enterprise Development Center has been so valuable, because they are there, they know so much about what is needed in Nigeria, and together with our skills about using technology and the knowledge we have because of doing this across the world about what works in training women in financial and business skills really makes a big difference. And I think the other thing that's made the difference is about networks. I mentioned already, but you know, networks, many of our women talk about how men have their old boys network, you know, we're setting up, as I say, sisterpreneurs, a network for women. It's been even more important, I think, during COVID, because that support that the women have been able to give each other has been so important. But, you know, it is about capacity building at the end of the day. It's about, with our partners, developing the skills and the knowledge that women can then develop themselves. And as we've heard, also pass that on. I wanted to talk about one great success story, which is Choma. Choma I met actually when I went to Nigeria a few years back, and she just got in contact with me recently. And I think she's one of our stars, is she not? She started a business in Lagos, which essentially is a recycling business, encouraging people to recycle by giving them rewards. And she started small, and she's really, over the years now, she's a graduate from a few years back, done really well. In less than 2 years since she took part in the program, she has created over 230 green jobs and recycled over 100,000 kilograms of waste monthly. And so what she rang to tell me not very long ago is that she's just won a climate change award from Coca-Cola for her recycling business, which is putting money into that business to enable her to even expand further. And I know, as you said, Nneka, the two of us are very proud godmothers, and you know, ExxonMobil has made that possible. So there's a real virtuous circle there.
That's amazing.
And of course, Choma also, like everyone else on the program, gives back to other women.
That's right, which is incredible. That network is very important. And I know we only have a couple minutes left, so Kerry, I'm going to jump to you very quickly. Thinking about Concordia focuses on the strength and success of partnerships. So we've talked about how Exxon's been a great partner with the Cherie Blair Foundation. In your view, what makes partnerships effective in this field, and how do you decide on your investments?
Sure. When ExxonMobil launched our Women's Economic Opportunities Initiative in 2005, we didn't really know how best to target our contributions, but we asked, as we do in our daily business, if I had $1 to invest in women's economic empowerment, where would that dollar be best spent? We spoke with stakeholders in academia, in civil society, and in research institutions, and it was clear there was no one single answer. So we felt that it was important to better understand those characteristics of the most successful and effective programs, the ones that truly advance women's economic independence and success. And given that we are a data-driven company, we commissioned our own research on this topic, but we soon felt that others would also benefit from it. So in partnership with the UN Foundation, we published a report in 2013 called The Roadmap for Promoting Women's Economic Empowerment. And the findings in the roadmap confirm there is no one size fits all to economically empower women. However, one common theme stood out, and that is that when we invest in women leaders, no matter their stage of development, an economic ripple effect is unleashed. We also found a couple things. When women are encouraged to save, when financial institutions design savings products specifically for women, And also when capital is available to female entrepreneurs, we see this exponential growth among women-owned businesses. We at ExxonMobil were incredibly proud of our partnership with the Cherie Blair Foundation. Together, we feel that we have harnessed our collective strengths in project management and operationalizing research, overcoming on-the-ground obstacles, training development, and just that passion and skills to effectively deliver the
That's so great.
curriculum. And this is all aimed at women all over the world. And this wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for these effective multi-sector partnerships.
So terrific. Thank you so much, Kerry. And we're actually out of time, but I want to ask one more question. Cherie, why don't we talk a little bit? Last week, you launched the Road to Growth program in Guyana. What's next for the program? What's ahead for the foundation? And how can the audience engage? So this is that call to action for the audience.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're so excited about going into Guyana with ExxonMobil again, and which is great. We're about to, very excited that we're talking about these issues. We're actually going to have in fact, November, a conference, Women Entrepreneurs Mean Business. We've got a great lineup of speakers, but we're also going to be focusing on highlighting some of the women we've been working with all over the world, to look at what practically works to ensure that it's not going to take more than 250 years before women get the same economic chances as men. And we'd love it if more corporates and companies and individuals would join us in that journey to come together to explore the challenge of what's holding women back, particularly, of course, those gender stereotypes, which are not just holding women back, they're holding us all back. Because as we've heard, if we don't develop the talents of the women of the world, we will not reach those sustainable development goals. And one final thing that we're talking before about mentoring, we have a great global mentoring program where we ask people to come for a year and mentor one of our fantastic women business people over the internet. So from their desk, giving them support. And we'd love it if any people listening, if they go to our website, would consider becoming a mentor, or consider even better, getting their companies to support the mentoring program. So thanks ever so much, and lovely to see you all again. I just wish we were all together in person, but next year, surely we will
That's
be.
right. Exactly. Thank you all so much. So appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thanks for sharing your insights, the stories, and more importantly, for your commitment to advancing women's inclusion globally. I really appreciate it. And, I think we've talked about this today, but we really know that in order to combat some of the biggest challenges facing the world today, whether they be economic growth and stability, food security, health, climate, all of these things have been discussed at Concordia this week. Women must fully be included, equipped, and empowered. And that's what the work that you all are doing. And so we just so appreciate it. I want to thank Concordia again for the opportunity. Thank you to Cherie, Kerry, and Nneka for joining us today, and wishing everyone a wonderful afternoon and a happy early birthday to Cherie tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.